Good morning, boys and girls. Today's read aloud is called The Ugly Vegetables, and this is written by Grace Lynn. This is a fiction book, but it could be a nonfiction book. In the spring, I helped my mother start our garden. We used tall shovels to turn the grass upside down, and I saw pink worms wriggle around. It was hard work, and when we stopped to rest, we saw that our neighbors were starting their gardens too. Hello, Irma, my mother called to Miss Coumarin. Miss Coumarin was digging too. She was using a small shovel, one that fit in her hand. Mommy, I asked, why are we using such big shovels? Miss Coumarin has a small one. Because our garden needs more digging, she said. I helped my mother plant the seeds and we dragged the hose to the garden. Hi, Linda. Hi, Mickey, I called to the Fitzgeralds. They were sprinkling water on their garden with green watering cans. Mommy, I asked, why are we using a hose? Linda and Mickey were using watering cans. Because our garden needs more water. So I'm already noticing a pattern. The neighbors are using small stuff and they're using larger stuff. Did you guys notice that too? Then my mother drew funny pictures on pieces of paper, and I stuck them into the garden. Hello, Roseanne, my mother called across the street to Mrs. Angel Howe. Mommy, I asked, why are we sticking these papers in the garden? Mrs. Angel Howe has seed packages in her garden. Because our garden is going to grow Chinese vegetables. She told me these are the names of the vegetables in Chinese, so I can tell which plants are growing where. She's not looking too happy. I think she likes what the neighbors are able to do, but her mom is going to show her that it's all going to work out. One day I saw our garden growing. Little green stems that looked like grass had popped out from the ground. Our garden's growing, I yelled. Our garden's growing. I rushed over to the neighbor's garden to see if theirs had grown. Their plants looked like little leaves. Mommy, I asked, why do our plants look like grass? The neighbor's plants look different. Because they are growing flowers, she said. Why can't we grow flowers? I asked. These are better than flowers, she said. So when she says these are better than flowers, do you think that's a fact, something true, or is that her opinion, something she thinks? It's an opinion. Soon all the neighbors' gardens were blooming. Up and down the street grew rainbows of flowers. The wind always smelled sweet, and butterflies and bees flew everywhere. Everyone's garden was beautiful, except for ours. Our garden was all dark green and ugly. Why didn't we grow flowers? I asked again. These are better than flowers, Mommy said again. I looked, but I only saw black, purple, green vines, fuzzy, wrinkled leaves, prickly stems, and a few little yellow flowers. I don't think so, I said. You wait and see, Mommy said. Before long, our vegetables grew, and some were big and lumpy, some were thin and green and covered with bumps, some were just plain icky yellow. These were ugly vegetables. Sometimes I would go over to the neighbors and look at their pretty gardens. They would show the poppies and peonies and petunias to me, and I would feel sad that our garden wasn't as nice. The colors do look way different. These are more just the greens and yellows, and these are a rainbow of colors. One day, my mother and I picked the vegetables from the garden. We filled a whole wheelbarrow full of them, and we wheeled them to the kitchen. My mother washed them, took a big knife, and started to chop them. Ay-yow, she said when she cut them. She had to use all her muscles. The vegetables were hard and tough. This is a shoha kwa, Mama said, handing me a bumpy, curled vegetable. She pointed to the other vegetables. This is a shin kao. This is a tong hao. I went outside to play, and while I was playing catch with Mickey, a magical aroma filled the air. I saw the neighbors standing on their porches with their eyes closed, smelling the sky. They took deep breaths of air like they were trying to eat the smell. The wind carried it up and down the street. Even the bees and the butterflies seemed to smell the scent in the breeze. And I smelled it too. It made me hungry, and it was coming from my house. When I followed the smell to my house, my mother was putting a big bowl of soup on the table. The soup was yellow and red and green and pink. "This is a special soup," Mommy said, and she smiled. She gave me a small bowl full of it, and I tasted it. It was so good. The flavors of the soup seemed to dance in my mouth and laugh all the way down to my stomach. I smiled. "Do you like it?" Mommy asked me. I nodded, and I held out my bowl for some more. "It's made from our vegetables," she told me. Then the doorbell rang, and we went to open the door. All of our neighbors were standing at the door holding flowers. "We noticed you were cooking," Mr. Fitzgerald laughed, and he held out his flowers. "We thought maybe you would be interested in a trade." We laughed too, and my mother gave them each their own bowl of her special soup. My mother told them what each vegetable was and how she grew it. She gave them the soup recipe and put some soup into jars for them to take home. I ate 5 bowls of soup. If you notice her expression, her face emotions, she's way different than how she was in the beginning of the book. It was the best dinner ever. The next spring, when my mother was starting her garden, we planted some flowers next to the Chinese vegetables. Mrs. Crewmarine and the Fitzgeralds in the Angel House planted some Chinese vegetables next to their flowers. Soon the whole neighborhood was growing Chinese vegetables in their gardens. Up and down the street, little green plants poked out of the ground. Some looked like leaves and some looked like grass, and when the flowers started blooming, you could smell the soup in the air. And then in the very back of this book, it's really neat. It will tell you what each of the vegetables were, and then it says how to say them, and then it tells you a little bit about them, and then it gives you the recipe of the ugly vegetable soup. Now, when I'm looking at these vegetables, I wouldn't know how to go buy those in a store that I normally go to. But I bet if you go to a Chinese store, they would be able to help you find those. And if you wanted to, you could try this soup. It sounds amazing. All right, boys and girls, have a great day.